think a very important thing is maintaining relationships outside of your career. And
ooh, that's a good one.
Very good one.
Yeah, I think you can get caught up, especially when you're running your own business, because it seeps into your life in other ways that a corporate job doesn't. And I think, and I think I read somewhere that you live, like, one of the longest longevity things for a human is their social interaction.
Yeah.
And it helps you live longer.
Yes.
So I've been just trying to reach out to my friends, spend time with them on the weekends and after work, and not just get completely wrapped up in this, in business.
Welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast. In this podcast, you will experience wisdom, advice, and stories from creatives all over the world. Your host is Amani Roberts, who is a DJ, music producer, professor, avid book reader, and developing salsa dancer. On the show, we love to share the stories of creative professionals, especially people who've gone from the corporate life to the creative life. Once again, welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast.
Welcome to episode 28 of the Amani Experience Podcast. Today we have LadySmyth in-house with us. Ivy and Shannon talked to us about fashion and everything and beyond. My favorite two things about this episode was that it was a really fun episode. We had great stories, lots of laughter, and great business lessons that they shared with us. Also, the chemistry between Ivy and Shannon is very evident, and I enjoyed that as well. Also wanted to highlight a iTunes review. Someone sent us a review a few months back. I want to highlight them today. CC124567 said, I listen to a lot of business podcasts, and what I like about this one is Amani asks good, on-the-spot follow-up questions, which not all interviewers do, and he's to the point. I also like that they're about 30 minutes, so I can listen during a drive. Really good content. Thank you very much for that review. Please remember to subscribe on iTunes and leave us a review, and we can highlight your review on the show. Thank you very much for listening, and to the show we go. All right, so I'm going to read our guests today, their bio. My two guests today founded LadySmyth Incorporated in the fall of 2015. They're best friends from design school. They wanted to create a business that brought all their talents together. Having both fashion and production experience, they saw that there was often a disconnect between the two, so they formed LadySmyth Incorporated specifically to streamline the process and to get more efficient results. Both of our founders studied design at the University of Cincinnati, graduating with a Bachelor of Science degree in design. Though both parted ways to successfully pursue careers on opposite sides of the country, they have since united and combined their strengths to form LadySmyth Incorporated. I would like to welcome Halle, Grano, and Shannon Weidel to the Amani Experience Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being on the show. I'm excited.
Of course.
So what we usually do at first is we do a geographical check-in. So right now, where are we located?
We are located downtown LA in the Arts District.
Right. And so we're in the Arts District, and you both are born and raised in Ohio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
So Shannon, you were born in where?
Dayton,
So you're
Ohio.
in Dayton, Ohio.
Mm-hmm. And
then if I call Halle Ivy, that's because she's a DJ. I know her from DJing. So just so we get that out there, I might say Ivy by mistake. But you grew up.
Same person.
Yeah, same person. You grew up where?
Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. And tell us how you met in school.
Do we even remember that question? Is that from
Poetry class.
Okay, so we went to college together, and was that my second year and your third year maybe? Something like that. And we had to take like some electives, and we both took poetry, and we met there. And we also had a mutual friend that was in fashion school with us. My friend's name was Amber, her friend's name was Natalie, and they were best friends. So Natalie was in Shannon's grade, and Amber was in my grade. And just like through the network, we kind of kept relinking with each other, but we knew each other from poetry class, and then became acquaintances through fashion, and then kind of started talking more. And then I believe I needed some roommates. I got this really cool like mansion that we lived in Kentucky across the bridge
Right.
from Cincinnati, because you could throw a rock over the bridge.
True.
And I needed roommates, and Shannon moved in with us, and her and I just instantly became friends and started living with each other in different areas.
Okay. So then, Shannon, when you finished school, or while you were going to school, you had a bunch of really cool internships like Diane von Furstenberg, and then Aeropostale and Marc Jacobs.
Yes. Those were through the school. My first internship was at Diane von Furstenberg, and we can leave Aeropostale off of there. It's really not that fancy, but I interned at a vintage studio in New York, and through that studio, I was able to snag a much coveted internship at Marc Jacobs.
Yes.
Which was pretty awesome.
Impressive.
So, and I did a season there working on, I think it was like spring 2005 runway.
Okay.
So.
And that vintage was called Southpaw Vintage, correct?
Yes, it was called Southpaw Vintage Studio, and that's where I developed a real love of vintage and a real knowledge of the history of vintage. And it's just such a cool, it's just one of my favorite parts about clothing.
Cool.
So.
And then I also see that you were with DKNY for almost 10 years.
Yeah, I'm like a unicorn when it comes to being at a job for a very long time. I like to settle in, and if it's no drama, then I'll stay.
All right. Well, 10 years must not have been much drama.
Nope.
Cool. Now, is it true that I read that you are very skilled at cooking mince pie? Is this true?
Oh my God.
I think he did his research.
I know. I was actually just telling that story.
All right. Well, tell us the story. I want to hear.
Well, I was through my sister. We got tickets for the Martha Stewart show, and it happened to be her pie show. And everyone in the audience had to bring a pie. And I made this version of a mince pie called a modern mincemeat pie. And it took 4 hours to make it. So I think I just tasted it once. I didn't even taste the crust. I just made the recipe. But it actually made it out of like 200 and something audience members. It made the top 5.
I saw.
And Martha ate my pie.
And what did she say?
She thought it looked beautiful, and she said it was delicious.
Nice.
Look at that.
That's a dope story.
Yeah.
See, I can make pie. I have sweet potato pie too. I think we're gonna have a potluck in our future, so we're gonna hook that up.
The
Please
LadySmyth
bring me your
potluck.
pies.
Yes. Speaking of LadySmyth, how did y'all come up with the name?
Well, it's an interesting story because there's like different versions of it, but the really shortened version is we were trying to come up with cool names, and we're modern working women. So it's kind of like blacksmiths, but we're ladies. So
okay.
it's LadySmyth. But I think Shannon and her ex at the time were like looking up like information.
Well, I was trying to come up with a name for the company. So we were sitting down, and Tim had the idea of going back and forth, just pulling up an article and then writing all the words in the article, or anything online really, and just writing words that you like down. So we just
which I love.
But you wouldn't find the article. You would hand your phone to the other person.
Okay.
And then they would get an article that you found for them.
Okay.
And he gave me the phone, and it was a Wikipedia page on Pam Anderson.
Okay.
So I was like, all right. But I was reading about her, and she's from a town in Canada called LadySmyth.
Oh.
It's spelled differently.
It's spelled S-M-I-T-H.
Got it.
I mean, not to be confused with the African LadySmyth Boombada.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Respect to
But
them, yes.
respect. Yes. Yeah, totally. It's confused with that a lot. But and just like.
And then she told me about it. Her and
Right.
Tim came up with it.
Well, I read all the words that I wrote down.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but LadySmyth seems to be like, wait, this could be.
It was sticking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she told me, and I was like, well, we love Pam because she's a pioneer. She was like one of the first women to break out and do like, swimsuit modeling and getting recognized for that, and kind of changing the whole like persona and, just women in modeling in general. That was different than just regular runway modeling.
Right.
So I
Right.
just thought she was really cool. And we're like, we're working women. This is cool. Like it just
Right.
kind of stuck. And then we went with that. And then now
Okay.
here we are.
And tell us who's our third guest who joined us right there in your lap.
We have Foxy Brown. She was barking, so I had to put her on my lap.
Right. But she's more than welcome. We are dog lovers, so no worries. Even if you're a bark, it's all good.
Perfect. Thank you.
So tell us, Halle, for you were at 7 for All Mankind.
Uh-huh.
And then Ivy and Lace. And then Crooks and Castles.
Yeah.
And then Melody Asani Design, right? Mm-hmm. And then 555 Soul. Mm-hmm. So I want you to tell us about this project you had in school called the Pink Light District Project. When you
did a little research.
Which was inspired by the city of Amsterdam. So tell us about that project.
Well, this is interesting. So I was really obsessed with lingerie and swimwear when I was in college, and mostly because I was a professional exotic dancer when I was younger, and there was something missing for me in the costuming department of that. Like, it was always really tacky spandex, and gold lame and weird outfits. So I would kind of create my own, pieces and custom make things for people. And I was inspired by this really cool, French fashion book that I had, and it had an editorial as the red light district in Amsterdam. But I was like, oh, how cool. It was high fashion, but I was like, how cool would this be if it was girls in the red light district, but I called it pink light district to make a twist off of it.
Right.
And I did my senior thesis on that. And I dip dyed silks and made a corset and a cute, almost modern dancer wear, but it was a little more couture looking. It was my take on that to the best of my ability at that time. And when I did the thesis, I remember my professors were like, this is really great. You should work in the lingerie and swimwear industry. I wanted to come to LA, and that's what I wanted to do. So.
Okay. And then, so a couple questions, how did working as an exotic dancer help your fashion career?
Well, the only thing I would say it did for me monetarily was be able to get through fashion school and have a job that worked within the hours. That was literally the only reason I could do that, because you couldn't have a 9 to 5, and because you were in studio all day long. So I could work night job and then come in. I lived off 4 hours of sleep for 5 or 6 years of my life. But it helped me be able to save up some money to be able to do what I wanted to do and pay for school and things like that. So
cool. So just so you all know, you're the first fashion experts I've had on the show, so I'm honored. And you're also the first kind of duo that I've interviewed as well. Usually it's one person, so it's 2 people. So, check mark. So
I love it.
I'm honored. So tell us, when was it when you both realized that LadySmyth was going to be a success? Because it takes a lot of courage to take the leap and kind of bounce out from working for someone else. When was the time when you thought, okay, this is going to work?
I don't know if we ever thought it was going to work. We just kind of did it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's still working. I don't know if we're exactly, I would say we're super success yet. I think it's still early stages, but the fact that we were able to kind of create something out of nothing, I guess, speaks for itself. You just kind of have to go for it.
Yeah.
And see what happens. And we're still in that seeing what
Yeah.
happens stage. So I think there's no ending to the story right now.
Right.
We're in the middle of it.
Okay.
So.
But I think the number one thing that we realized was, because we have training from the same education, we have similar thought processes. And when we started working together for the first time ever, because we've always just been friends, this is 14, 15 years of friendship. When we started working together, we're like, oh, wait, I think the same thing that you do. We always joke that we share a brain, because she thinks this, we have the same answers. We don't even have to ask each other sometimes. We're like, oh, yeah, I knew you'd think that.
Finish each other's sentences.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
See?
So based on today's business environment, what do you think is important for creative professionals such as yourselves to succeed?
I think it's about being integrity. I think that's huge. And I think people get swayed. Maybe they have negative thoughts, or people say, I don't think so, you can't do that, or But I think also just staying true to yourself, and just if you're good at something, just keep doing that thing over and over and over again, and you'll get to where you need to be, really.
To build on that, I think transparency is another thing that we've had as a success on top of keeping our integrity.
Honesty, truth and honesty.
Like, even if you have a problem with a client or a problem with product, just voice it and tell your client and have a solution.
Right.
And it helps you succeed, like, beyond when I've seen businesses hide it.
Don't try to cover that shit up.
It'll always
It'll blow up.
It blows up in your face.
And also, you let the client have the opportunity to take the reins, and they love that shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So.
Cool. And why do you all love working in fashion?
Oh, I just love, ever since I was younger, I loved, I used to love like fashion plates. I was like my little fashion plates designer. I would always like draw things and color clothes. Yeah. And then every time when I was little, I started like getting into shopping, you know, with my mom and stuff. And I'd always find clothes, but there were alterations I wanted to do. Like, oh, I would buy this if it was like this, or I don't know. And I loved dressing up Barbies. And then once I started seeing like runway and learning couture, I'm obsessed with it. And then once I got Shannon in my life with vintage,
Yes.
I really appreciate vintage. I love vintage. But she's like my vintage expert.
All right.
Yeah, I think it was that dream I had about Jean Paul Gaultier in 6th grade, which is really bizarre because I'm like, how did I even know who he was?
You had a dream about him?
Yes.
What happened in the dream?
Well, in the dream, he was just like, I was like training under him. It was really bizarre. But I think I'm like, how did I know? It must have been Madonna.
It must have been.
Yeah.
I blame Madonna. I
It
love
must have
Madonna.
been that cone boob, which he invented.
Yes.
The cone bra.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It was so good.
That's what did it for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was just obsessed with. Just music videos and, you know, women like Madonna at the time, probably like Paula Abdul. And,
Yes.
all those 90s, late 90s era, Salt and Pepper.
Yes.
Yes.
TLC.
We love
like,
them all.
Yes.
Music.
The costuming and like the styling
Right.
of all
during
that.
time were just nuts. That's like, that was such a cool time. And it's kind of coming back right now. It really is coming back right now.
Because I was going to ask, like, how do you feel it's changed from like early mid-90s to now? Cause
Well, what's funny is I just DJ'd a party for a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds on Saturday, and they were all dressed in 90s gear. Like, I was like, what, are they like my past? Is this a costume party?
Nice.
But this is like what the kids are wearing.
Were they doing the Running Man too, the Cabbage
They
Patch
weren't,
Baby?
but they were
Okay.
all like wearing like,
That's unfortunate.
I know. One girl had like a Fila shirt. Another girl had like an Aaliyah vintage tee. Someone had like Timberlands on, and like they all had like the stovepipe high-waisted jeans on. And I was like, this is crazy.
Okay.
It was really cute. I liked seeing the
They've been
fashion.
doing their research, watching their videos. Impressive. Tell us, what did your family and friends say when you told them that you're going to start a company with like one of your very closest friends? What was the reaction?
I think support for the
Yeah.
most part. Yeah.
I think our families support most of what we do, and we've always been successful in that. So they just feel like, you know, this is just the next step. But I think we just started working together organically and had 2 of my freelance clients that we just built together. And then I introduced Shannon into the group and was like, okay, now we can build more, and we're working together. And then we slowly started adding pieces and teams, and then people started coming to us. And my dad has owned his own business for...
Speaking of family that support us, her
Yeah.
dad is very involved with the business.
Yeah, he's our business manager.
He helps.
Cool.
Yeah, he advisor as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's like our go-to like guy.
Before we hit
go-to
legal.
guru before we hit legal.
Yeah. But
Well,
like...
I mean, for other non-legal
Right.
business items.
Yeah,
as well,
but he
so.
comes in and like checks our processes and sees like, you know, what we're doing and offers advice. And, you know, from his history, he's a small business professional who came from corporate America, and he
Nice.
opened his own dog groomery about 20 years ago or so.
Okay.
And that was my first job, actually. I was a receptionist at his dog grooming salon. So it's really cool. He's expanded. He has a daycare now and all these different elements. but he's been through it all and been through the struggle. So it's really been helpful to have that. And he's so supportive of us.
Cool.
And he comes in and like offers great advice. And then he's coming out in a couple of weeks to work with us again.
Okay.
He just is dedicating time, works on his business from here, and helps us for a few days, which is great.
Goes back and forth from LA to Cleveland?
Yep.
All right, cool. So you grew up kind of in the entrepreneurial world or whatever, watching it, and that inspired you. Great.
Yep.
So then on the flip side, what is something that scares each of you?
I can start by saying I'm afraid to fail.
Okay.
I'm afraid of failure and letting down all of the like people that I've grown close to me and who rely on me, and kind of like I created this business with my best friend. The worst thing for me would be like to have to shut it down and like feel like a failure. That's my biggest fear in this particular process. What about yours?
Cool. And then how do you work through that so that doesn't affect your kind of day-to-day job and working?
I mean, you just have to work through it. That's all you can do, is just one foot in front of the other and hope that, you know, all the damage control you put into place is working, and, you know, just try to figure out new ways to make money, and new just following up on people you haven't heard from in a while.
Preserving those clients that do support the business and really
checking in on them and making sure they have everything they need.
Yep.
And just staying on top of it. That's the only way you can really.
Communication is the number one thing, and like preserving those relationships. And then we've been foresighting, you know, new projects and people that come to us. Before, we had so much business at one point that we couldn't keep up with it for a minute. And we're like, we had a queue, and now we're like, okay, how do we make all of this work? How do we preserve what we have? And then also forecast, so we make sure we have some projects coming down the pipeline.
Right.
I think the worst part is when you have no accounts receivable, no payable, and no projects coming up. That's scary.
Very scary. Okay. Now, the fashion industry is very crowded. There's a ton of people who work in fashion, who want to work in fashion. How do both of you rise above the noise and distinguish yourself from the competition?
Well, we tell people that what they can and cannot do. We're like, you can't be a fashion designer. Get out of here. No, just kidding.
We would never, ever do that.
No, we wouldn't do that.
We wouldn't have any business.
No, I
funny.
think it's just staying, I don't know, just with what we do and what we're so specific on doing is the design aspect and introducing that into the production side of the industry. And I think we found a niche there. We
explain to them a little bit, because we haven't explained, I guess.
Yeah.
Production is production. You take something and you execute and make it. Someone comes to you as like, I want to make this. Well, we're classically trained designers, so we bring a new element, what Shannon's trying to say. Like, we just come in and we found this niche category that doesn't exist, where production people are actually designers, because now we can interpret what you want and execute it better than just a production person.
So give us an
And then we
example.
also work with integrity and full transparency and communicate. So
give us an example of that process and how your niche is unique.
you come to somebody and you say, hey, I have this sweater sample. I want to make this, but I want it in this fabric. Or they start saying like, I want a really soft luxe French terry, like an Alexander Wang sweatshirt or whatever. Or they'll have an example of what they want. A production person that also maybe has to source will go into the market and try and find similar fabrics that you're looking for. But if they don't have textile knowledge or any...
Because of the lack of their design
Exactly.
knowledge,
Okay.
they're not going to hit what you want that easily
Got
and
it.
that quickly. So because we have that, we have a better intuition of what you want. We're like, I think I know exactly what you need.
We can hit it in like 1 to 2 notes.
Yeah.
One
Right.
time
Exactly.
or a second.
Yes. Instead of 7 to 8.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly.
Unless if the client doesn't know what they want.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then
we cannot help you.
it's hard.
Okay.
And we've had that
Yeah,
happen,
it's
you
really
know?
hard.
Like, if you don't know what you want, we're trying to find what you want, but if you don't know,
It can be
then
a
it's
needle in the haystack,
Right.
really. The best clients are the ones that really know what they want. And please tell me.
And understand the process.
Yeah, and understand
Right.
the process. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So you've got a unique niche there that you're continuing to kind of fill and just off and running.
Yeah, it's just a struggle because a lot of people now have eliminated the designer, and now everybody's a designer. So they're like, oh, I bought clothing. Now I want to copy it. Here I come to you with my ideas. And then they want to make it, but they don't understand the process. They don't have the schooling. And then it becomes like, we have to explain it to you as we're doing it. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah. I don't think people realize that the program that you were in at University of Cincinnati is one of the top programs in the world, if I'm correct. Right? And so that's a serious school there. So people need to kind of recognize.
Yeah, definitely.
Respect.
No, it's kind of an underdog where people don't know about it. But if you know about it, then it's like, oh, wow, this is a great school. Everyone always says FITM, F-I-T, FITM, F-I-T. Well, Otis is a great school out here too. And that's like an underrated school. But we've found people that have come out of FITM and FIT that don't even know the same things that we do. And they're like, oh, I never learned that in school. I'm like, you went to one of the best schools for fashion. What happened?
Yeah.
So,
well, I think the program at UC is a good overall design program in general. And not only do you get the fashion knowledge there, but you start in and just learning about design in general, and that could be industrial design, and that's like product design from furniture. So you become like very knowledgeable and like what is aesthetically pleasing, and I don't know. I think without that, I think it would just be another fashion.
Totally. And the other thing that they have, shout out to University of Cincinnati, go Bearcats, because we love our school. We actually, you have to complete 8 cooperative education terms before you can graduate, and they can't be free internships. They have to be paid.
Which the school invented.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so you now come out of school having 8 jobs. Before you start, your entry level pay is higher and you have more experience than a person who just came out of
I'm assuming they
school.
Still do that.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
They do. Yeah, I was doing a little research.
Okay.
That's what they're known for, and that was really cool. I didn't know that until
I felt very fortunate finding that out. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's good. So
step up.
Props, congrats, good work.
Thanks.
Tell us, how has a failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success? Do each of you have a favorite failure of yours? And it can be in fashion, it can be out of fashion, because we know that Ivy likes the DJ life, so talk to us.
I'm going to stick to fashion for
Okay.
this one.
The thing about failure, and it's one of these things where we always talk about, I don't know if you heard it somewhere, or anyway, it was brought up. It's like
the Tim Ferriss, from the Tim Ferriss book, The 4-Hour Workweek, which Amani and I just read recently in a book club.
Yes. Shout out to Camp Spinoff.
Shout out to Camp Spinoff. So there's this great quote that says, you become an expert in your field once you've learned all the mistakes there are to make in any specific area.
And when she told me that quote, I was like, well, I think
we're getting there. We're still not even there.
No,
but
I'm sure there's tons of more mistakes we can make. But the fact is that failure is a part of it.
Well, my favorite specific failure moment, I guess, is just a silly one. But we had a customer write a really big check in our name, but at that time we weren't like fully incorporated and fully trademarked yet.
Right.
And I was writing LadySmyth on our like payable thing, but it said, please make check payable to Halle Grano, and they wrote it to LadySmyth. And her and I, all of a sudden, it was like for $19,000, and we're like, shit, what do we do? So I got a DBA, I made us a partnership, and then I opened an account under LadySmyth, and it was like, it forced us to become more professional in that moment, because we were just kind of waiting for the right time. And we were so broke, and we were like, oh my God, what do we do?
Right.
And we still had to wait for the check to clear and everything. But it was one thing that got us to start following protocol and really setting up the business.
Good.
That's one example, but I'm sure we can come up with many.
Shannon?
My favorite failure. I mean, there's so many to choose.
I know.
Yeah, we'll just pick one.
Oh gosh. I don't know. Like, okay. I think one of the biggest. I think when we were working with a certain client, I'm not going to mention any names, but I think basically we allowed someone to take advantage of us in a way that we weren't prepared on our end of dealing with. And we lost a lot of money. We didn't get paid fairly. But my favorite thing about that is that we, from that moment on, we stepped up and decided we weren't going to take, like, we were going to treat ourselves better, like, or like just like not take crap from people, and just you know, just it taught us to set boundaries. And I think that was a super amazing failure, because if you don't set boundaries, you're not going to last. It's just going to drag you through the dirt. So I think,
I love that example too.
Great example. Yeah.
And we had that a couple of times, actually. 3 different occasions that I can specifically point out, where the first one was like, well, that sucks. We just got fucked over. And then another time was like, wow, we had to wait for that money forever. I learned this, and now we're going through something.
Now we know what protocol to set up.
Really,
we put a lot of just checks and balances into place.
Good.
Yeah. To try to prevent it from ever happening again.
Cover our asses.
Yeah.
Like those client issues, I think, are the best failures, because I think we learn the most from them. And just because you're interacting, because people are so different in business, and you never know what you're going to get, and you never know who you're going to deal with. And so you can't possibly cover every angle unless you've been through every angle. Yeah. So we're going through a final one. Hopefully.
Well, hopefully. I mean, it's never going to be the end, but of this particular occurrence. And I think the one thing that my dad and I were speaking today about it too, and he's like, I know the one thing about you and Shannon and your business is you don't do anything out of pocket. Like, you don't do anything that's unnecessary or unfair, and you don't just make decisions on your own. You cover your ass along the way. Like, if we suggest something, we have it in writing. The client agrees to it, and then we do it. And then when we go back to it later, we're like, wait, it's been so many months, I forgot. Did we do that? Oh no, look, here. We covered our ass that day, because that's how we work. Shannon and I don't just make decisions ever. We're not like, oh, we should just do that. Let's just not tell him. It's like, we might even say that and be like, oh, we should just do that. Maybe we should tell them, let's go ahead and do this. Okay. And then, you present the problem, present a solution, whatever, be transparent. It all goes back together.
I think one time when you were in the middle of going through this, we were DJing together, and you came to the gig. You were like 30 minutes late. You're like, I'm sorry, but I was dealing with this client and they don't want to pay, and we're chasing them down. You were visibly disturbed. However, you put on some Tribe Called Quest, and you were at peace. You were at peace, and you took over the set, and you were phenomenal. So
thank you.
All's well that ended well that time.
That's the one thing that, like, if we just go back to, like, having fun or doing things that we love, spending time with each other, talking, listening to music, chatting like we are now, it just kind of gets you out of that mindset, and then you're like, oh, okay, the problem isn't really that big. We'll deal with it later.
Now, how do you all handle your critics? I'm sure there's really competitive, so you have your fair share of critics. How do you manage that?
Ignore them.
It's the same thing. Like, you don't. Haters gonna hate, right?
Once you have haters, you've arrived.
Well, I agree with you. Someone's always going to have something to say and have their opinion, but the second you allow that to affect.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's your mental attitude and how you're going to take it. Like,
people, they're going to say what they want to say.
Exactly.
And all we know at the end of the day is that, like, I can go to sleep, and so can she, because I know I did a good job.
All right.
We're always doing our best, and it's the best we can do.
Right. So,
and even times when we're feeling kind of crappy about what we did, we talk about it and be like, that didn't feel good. No, that didn't feel good. Okay, well,
I feel defeated.
Right.
And then one of us lifts the other one up usually.
Or how can we get through this? Or, let's talk about this, and maybe make sure, we don't have to relive the situation.
Right.
So. And then sometimes we just go to brunch together, or go for a hike, or go do something. Let's get our mind off of this. Let's have
Which you haven't done for a while.
We need to do that again.
You're overdue.
See? We're overdue.
Okay. Speaking of self-care, tell us about the darkest time of your life, how you got through that, and what do you do now to manage a healthy kind of mindset? Because it's tough as an entrepreneur. There are lots of ups, lots of downs, and we go through many, many dark times. So share maybe a story and what you did to get through that.
Darkest time.
As an entrepreneur.
It can, or it can be even before you ventured out. It could be maybe when you were at DKNY or when you were like back in school.
I remember the darkest time for me that I can recall. I'm sure there were other times, but the one stands out in my mind. I was in an unhealthy relationship that was ending, and I was a designer at 7 for All Mankind at that time. And there was a point where we broke up, and I had all my clothes in trash bags, like in my car. And I met one of my best friends at the time. His name's Steve Sanchez. I love him because he was my boss at 7, and he just came in and took over the new role as a sportswear director or lead sportswear designer. And I remember he met me, and I was at a point where I was like in tears, and I came late to a meeting, and he like pulled me aside to kind of talk to me about it. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm off my game right now. I know you're meeting me at like the worst time in my life, but I promise if you just like stick with me, you can see that I'm a good person. I'm just going through something. And we always talk about that because he was like, you totally bounced back. But he's like, in that moment, I was like, oh, what's up with this girl? I was an emotional wreck, and I was like trying to find a place to live, staying at my friend's couch because I had lived with him, and it was like trying to maintain a corporate job, which, you know, we talk about these corporate America, going to your own thing, and that was a struggle, but it was really nice to have people around to help get me through it. The thing that I do in my routine to take care of myself, I always try to get sleep, and if I don't get enough sleep one night, try to balance it out the next night. I like to do yoga and meditate and just try to drink a lot of water and be as healthy as possible. Good. And I try to keep that in my routine to help keep my mental balance.
Okay, well done. Shannon?
I think I had a similar situation at DKNY where I was like just young and partying and going out, and I remember I came in probably hungover. My boss called me into the office, and she was actually like, I know what you're going through. I understand. I'd been there, done that. And then she encouraged me. You know, it was good to hear that I wasn't alone and I wasn't going through, because I think it's a very similar late 20s thing to go through, especially in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
Or larger cities,
LA.
you know, LA. And it was good to hear that. So it was like a very similar situation with Halle. Like, I broke down crying, like, I'm sorry. And then it basically lit a fire under my ass, and I just like got to work and, you know, got more organized. But I think since then it's completely been different. But I think what I try to do to take care of myself is, I think a very important thing is maintaining relationships outside of your career. And
that's a good one.
Very good one.
Yeah. I think you can get caught up, especially when you're running your own business, because it seeps into your life in other ways that a corporate job doesn't. And I think you know, and I think I read somewhere that you live, like, one of the longest like longevity things for a human is their social interactions.
Yeah.
And it helps you live longer.
Yes.
So I've been just trying to reach out to my friends, spend time with them on the weekends and after work, and not just get completely wrapped up in this, you know, in business.
Yeah, because it's very
Well,
personal.
in the beginning, we used to spend a lot of time talking and outside of it and keep it going. Then we talk at night, and then we talk in the morning, and now we kind of are like, all right, are we done for the day? Unless we make other plans, because we always keep in touch, but we're like, all right, I've shut off business for the night. Like,
I think it's a very important thing. But on top of that, going into the business, is that one thing that's really cool about our business is that we interact with the community a lot. We are out in the streets, in the factories, in the field, talking and interacting with people, and I think that's a wonderful thing.
Right.
It's much better than sitting in a cubicle, which I was doing for those 10 years.
Yes. Yes. We can all relate.
This is a lot more
Yes.
Well, it
explorative
wasn't a
and
cubicle, but it
exciting.
might as
Yeah.
well been.
Right.
It was like a studio, but still, it was at the same desk every day.
Yeah, because I read on your website doing my research
Love
that
it.
it's really important for you all to kind of work with local providers so that you can continue to help them basically put food on the table for their families, and you kind of all develop organically. True?
Very true.
Yeah.
We like to not only support like family owned and operated businesses, because that's what we like. We support small business. We also have big corporate clients.
Right.
We appreciate all business as long as people are fair in business practice. And we'll give anyone an opportunity to come in the door and speak with us. And we like to really support not only the Los Angeles community, but the Made in America
Yes.
label. And we used to both work at companies that manufactured overseas. And, you know, it's great. You can get a better bargain for some things, but you wait a really long time for your product. The turnaround takes longer. You pay a lot of duties. Duties have gone up. You can control so many more things here. Go into the field, check it out, feel things, look at them, show the client, fix it quickly.
See how the factory is. See how
Right.
if your workers are happy and how
Yeah,
people
we look at
treat
all
them.
that.
Like, it's it's just nice to have it here.
Yeah.
And it's like a community. And
Right.
we are like, I mean, I think that was when we both talked about doing this. One of the main points is like, let's get the local, like, let's enrich this community.
Yes, yes. I remember as I was learning more about your company, that's one of my favorite things about your company.
Thank
I like
you.
many, many things of what you do, but that's like one of my most favorite things. That's important,
Thank
especially
you.
where we are.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Agreed. So Shannon, and then I'll let Ivy answer next. Who was the most influential person for you growing up?
I think we covered this a little earlier on, but
Madonna.
well, yes, Madonna. Whatever, Paul Abdul was influential. No, actually, one of the most influential people in my life is my grandfather.
Okay.
He was a illustrator, artist growing up in the 40s and 50s. He used to tell me stories about traveling to New York a lot. He hung with the beatnik crowd. He was a very art-forward, culturally forward fella, and I always looked up to him in that aspects of just being your free self. And I always thought he was a very, I don't know, he just lived such a cool life. And so he inspired a lot of my, especially a lot of my goals to get to New York and, you know, be a designer and stuff. He was always there and very supportive. Not to mention my mom and my dad as well, but
Good. Yeah.
yeah,
Great
he was
example.
he was the artist in the family, and I just wanted to be the other artist in the family. So
Here we are.
yeah,
She is.
Yes. Look at you now.
But yeah, I think definitely him, and then yeah. Other than that, it was just a lot of cultural influences.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right.
from the 70s, rock and roll, music, lots of music, early 90s music.
Who were some of the cultural ones from the 70s that really kind of?
Oh, she's got a list.
So just give us like your top 5 to 6.
Oh God. It's like changes all the time.
Well, current day, like you
Shannon
know.
has a really good like rock collection, punk, 70s. Like
All right, surprise
she
us
has
with
really
some.
great taste.
Surprise us with some.
God, that's I hate being put on the spot.
Think of your Spotify playlist.
I know. I'm like, there's thousands and thousands and thousands. I mean, I like a lot of psych rock. So, you know, typical. I don't know, like. Sure, I'll listen to some like Led Zeppelin, but then I'll listen to Steppenwolf or like I love Bowie too. Bowie's so amazing. And I don't know. It's just
Shannon's DJ'd a couple times in New York as well. She used to play at some bars.
I played at Black and White.
Oh yeah, just one place. Sorry.
It's okay.
Until I lost my MacBook in the back of the car. then the gig was up.
We can get you back out there, you know.
I know.
You know, between
Right.
Ivy and me, we DJ all the time.
So the one thing I remember when we were in college, she always had a really great taste for like up and coming underground like cool rock bands. Like she told me about, I would say like Death Cab for Cutie and Postal Service. And I remember Kings of Leon.
Yeah.
She would see them when they were in like tiny little bars, and she'd be like, this band is so rad.
National. And then they
get big and she'd be like, ah. But she was the one that would tell me about I'm like, wait, I know this band.
Right.
Because of her.
Cool. And then
cool.
Ivy, what about you?
My biggest influences growing up, my dad definitely was one of my biggest influences. My dad is gay, and he came out when I was 10, and that was like a big thing in 92. It was kind of like hard to deal with. I got picked on a lot, and it took a while before all of a sudden it was like, oh, it's cool, your dad's gay. But before it wasn't cool.
Yeah, taboo.
Exactly. And because of that, he taught me to always be myself and to not judge people and try to be as open-minded with different types of people and, you know, stereotypes and things like that, just because he was so criticized. And because of that, I feel like I went into life with a really open and loving mindset. I try to treat all people fairly until they give me different reason to feel that way.
True.
And I would also say a big influence was somebody I recently posted about on Instagram, my friend Geraldine Worry. She was my first, she was my mentor, and she was my first boss at 555 Soul when I designed there in like 2002. It was my first design internship. I had other internships prior, but that was the one I wanted. And she kind of mentored me and shaped me and helped like teach me a lot of the things that I learned, you know, in flat sketching and tech packs and, you know, just style in general. And she was also a textile designer because she went to school in Paris. She's a really cool, like well-rounded background. And then she just kept taking me to all of her jobs. She would just hire me as either the intern or assistant designer. Yeah. And that's how I ended up in LA, because she pulled me into 555, and then I was like, I'm living in New York forever. And then she went to Echo Red and is like, I love it because it was in the West Coast. She's like, come out to Los Angeles, I'll give you a job. And I was like, really? And she's like, just do it, you'll love it. And I came, and that's the reason that I came to LA.
Cool. All right. So, Ivy, there's a quote that I read that you said, and I want you to tell me what you still think about it. It says, keep doing what you love without a paycheck in mind, and down the line, you'll eventually get paid for it.
I do agree with that. That goes back to passion. I think a lot of people do certain things for a paycheck.
But have a side hustle.
Well, yeah, that's kind of my model too.
Very smart. True. Yes.
It's hard to be able to do something for passion if you can't live financially or have support from somebody to help you while you know that you're working towards that. I think the support's really important. But like doing DJing, I think like a lot of people come in, and I had a friend recently tell me like, oh, I want to just start getting booked. And I'm like, well, that's great. They're like, can you teach me how to DJ? I'm like, I would love to, but I also want you to keep the fundamental mindset that you might not get a paycheck. Like, do this for love. Like everything that we do that we enjoy is a labor of love, and we may take a pay cut and hope to get to a level that we're comfortable with, but I strongly believe in just doing what you love, and passion kind of guides you. Right. You automatically will someone will see you. Yeah. You never know who's looking. My stepdad told me recently, like, you never know who's watching. True. Always do your best, and always put your best foot forward, and someone may be watching, you know? And it's like, I agree with that, because it may seem like a struggle in the moment, but then when you look back and you're like, oh, wow, I made that work. Yeah. I would never think I'd be sitting here with my own business with my partner. I can't think of any other way. I think back to like applying for a job. How do I do? Like going
Resume,
somewhere?
LinkedIn.
What? Yeah. I don't even have that mindset anymore. It's so different.
Yeah, what you said reminded me of a quote from Tim Ferriss's most recent book, Tribe of Mentors. The author of the book, The School of Good and Evil, Solomon Chanani, he said that for creative people like us, we have to have a side hustle. We can't depend on our creativity to kind of fund our lives, because then we'll get burned out and it will trap our creative elves. It's kind of what I was paraphrasing.
Agreed.
And that's kind of what you just spoke to. So definitely. All right. So we're going to go back to University of Cincinnati. You're 21 years old.
Yeah.
So we got 21-year-old Ivy, 21-year-old Shannon. You're going to sit down in a coffee shop with her. what advice would you give yourself? And I'll let Shannon go first.
Shannon started that one.
Oh, good. Run away. No,
That's hilarious.
no, I think what I would say to her, I think I would try to tell myself to be more fearless and, and stay more true to myself, and don't be afraid of who I really am and letting that show. And I think I held myself back in a lot of ways. But, I eventually got through it, but I feel like I could have been doing this a while ago.
Right.
So that's what I would say. Be more fearless.
Okay.
Little Shannon.
21-year-old Shannon.
Yeah.
Little Shannon. I think for me, there's a couple of things I would have said to myself, but one of them would have been really believe in yourself. Because I remember when I first started designing, you come out of a design school and you're like, I think I'm a designer. I want to do my own thing. You think you're actually like cocky in your early 20s. And I would have said to myself, you don't know it all. There's so much more to learn. I felt like also I would have said, enjoy your youth and stop trying to grow up all the time, because I wanted to be so much older than I was. Like when I was 18, I'd lie and say I was 21. When I was 21, I'm like, I'm 24. And then when I was 24, I'm like, I'm 27. Like I always wanted to be older.
Right.
Because I felt like I was viewed in like an immature way by saying my real age. And now I'm like, I'm proud of my age. I mean, sometimes I wish I was younger now.
By how the tables have turned.
But I mean, you don't know everything in your late teens and early 20s, and there's so much more to learn, and just be patient and, trust the process.
There we go.
I mean, I've always kind of lived like that, but I didn't think that way.
Right.
So that's what I would have told myself.
And then, Shannon, we have another fun fact. Originally, you went to Miami University of Ohio, and you were a psych major, correct?
Oh, God.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yes. What inspires you to change and go into fashion?
It was really, before my vintage, it's so funny because I didn't know what I wanted to be. I think even going into that, I wanted to be like a biologist or something.
Okay.
But I love science, but I just didn't like math, and math's great. I mean, we use it all the time.
She still doesn't like math.
I hate math. I
do most of the math
it's
here.
Math.
I don't know why I like it. I think it's because it's attached to money.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, when I was there, I had this awakening because I was like, I don't want to be a psychologist. It's not what I want to be. And I was like, well, what do I love? And at the time, that's when I was actually, a lot of the vintage shopping that I was inspired to do, my mom took me thrift store shopping. That's what we did all the time. And she and her friends, she was in the music scene in Dayton. She hung out with that scene, and her friends dressed really cool. They went vintage shopping all the time, and I think I started my love of fashion there as well. And then I love to draw too. I had this artist, thing. So, after I put those two and two together, I'm like, well, I shouldn't be here. And then I actually went to a small school in Atlanta for like a year.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Yeah,
Which one?
It's called Botter College.
Okay.
It's
all right.
in the basement of a mall.
What part of Atlanta?
It was in, I think, Buckhead.
Okay.
Area.
Yeah. So like northwest.
Phipps Plaza was
yeah.
where it was. But it was actually, I had one of my best tailoring teachers was there, and one of my best illustration teachers was there as well, and I learned a lot. No regrets on that. It was just a 2-year school, and I wanted a 5-year.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's why I ended up at Cincinnati.
All right. And then for both of you, tell us, what is the one lesson in life that took you the longest to learn?
That means I'm still learning it, right?
Yeah.
It could be, yes. It's open for interpretation.
That fearless thing I was going to tell
Okay,
my
there you
21-year-old
go.
self, I'm going to tell myself right now.
Cool. Be fearless.
Be
Okay.
That's a good one. I
Be
think
fearless.
mine is set boundaries.
Ah.
Like constantly setting boundaries, because I always felt when I was younger I was a major people pleaser.
Okay.
And I always wanted to make people like me, and it goes back to like the childhood getting picked on.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
I started realizing like setting boundaries is actually healthy. Sorry, Foxy has a hairball or something.
That's
Sorry,
really
guys.
awesome.
It's really cute.
During our whole podcast.
I know, right?
She's trying to get it out
I'm
there.
like, Fox.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what I would say, just like
Cool.
setting boundaries.
Every great person has a sentence. What is your sentence? For example, my sentence would be, I help people unlock their creativity by showing them and teaching them how to DJ.
Ooh.
Oh, my sentence?
Sentence?
Yeah, what's your sentence? And you can think on it, take a little time.
So many sentences.
I'm waiting for you to go first.
I know you are. I'm just going to freestyle one.
Freestyle.
I feel like if it goes back to like purpose or something, my sentence or my purpose would be I feel like I'm a connector. Like I like to connect people and bring people together and kind of show them as much love as possible and possibility just
Okay.
by connecting and opening those doors
Well
for
done.
each other.
Cool.
Community.
There you go.
What was the sentence?
It's not a sentence. It's a run-on. No, I'm just kidding.
I love how she pushes
I am a
you.
connect. She does.
I love
She's
it.
my
I'm
partner.
buying time.
I
Go.
love
She
it.
is. Look at this girl. She's sneaky.
Very smart.
I am a connector. I like to bring people together and show them love and opportunity.
Boom.
Well said.
Thanks.
Oh
Shannon's up.
God. I think yeah. I would like to bring you beauty and love and harmony.
See,
All right. We'll take it.
you embody.
All right.
I am Shannon. I embody beauty, love, and harmony.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
your sentence.
I hope I can bring you peace.
All right.
Yeah.
There we go. We're almost done here. A couple more questions. We could talk all day, but
I know.
For both of you, what is one new habit that you've added to your daily routine in the past year or two that has been most beneficial?
The listicle.
Oh, the list. We call it the listicle.
Tell us about the listicle.
It looks like your book right there.
Okay.
We have random notebooks that we've filled and they get thrown out and then you get a new one. And those are a list of tasks that we have at the end of every day and beginning of the next day. And we just have this running list. And it has literally been the best thing we've ever done because it keeps us on track and we don't forget about things.
Okay.
It's essential.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So,
And it's fun to cross off as well.
and do you throw them away or do you just keep them?
The books we toss after we've gone through it, but
Okay.
I'll show you.
we put big X's.
Oh, there it is.
The pages we complete, we put big X's through, and
Nice.
there's nothing more satisfying.
See?
I'll take.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
I'll
You
take
could take like
pictures
a picture
and add
and
it to the show notes
and a
for
story
sure.
for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it feels really good.
If somebody found it and looked at it, it would make absolutely no sense to them.
No, and they wouldn't even think it had value. They'd be
No.
like, "This is a bunch of chicken
But
scratch."
you know what?
Okay.
It's so much value.
All right.
It's
The
like
listicle.
money and
The
work.
listicle.
All right. Beautiful. So on the Money Experience podcast, we're very big readers. So what is there one or two books or three books that you feel people should stop what they're doing and start to read them right away?
The Power of Now.
Oh,
Okay.
The Power of Now.
Good.
Yes,
There you go.
That's a great one.
The Four Agreements.
That's Eckhart Tolle, by
Eckhart
the way.
Tolle.
Oh yeah,
Very good.
her and I
Yeah,
both
yeah.
read that, and I
Good.
think I gave
Yes,
you that
you
one.
did. Yes.
The Four Agreements
Former
is one of my
agreements, yes.
favorites.
Good.
I have not read that one.
We can give it to
See?
you.
We're gonna hook her
Yeah,
up.
we're gonna hook you up.
Audible.
I also like. I've just been reading You Need a Budget.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Really? Haven't heard this one. What's it about?
It's just called You Need a Budget, and it's about budgeting, and it makes it very plain to see. And I just started reading that one.
Good. Good.
It's
Nice.
very short, but to the point and precise. What else?
If you're a small business owner or somebody that wants to start a business, The E-Myth is a really
Yes.
good book.
Yes.
I
Good.
recommend that one.
Okay. Good.
And what else for fun?
I know. What else have we read that we liked? Oh gosh, I'd have to look
That's
through
okay.
my
Those three are
Audibles.
good.
Those are really
good starts.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good starts.
All right. So before
For business.
Right, for business. If there's personal, you can always share that one too. We're always, group therapy. We always need the personal.
Oh, we
one.
always do the group therapy. I've read so many different books that I'm just like,
Yeah. But those three are a good start.
The personal ones are a little too embarrassing. I'm not hearing it. I'm not gonna
Tell one.
Okay,
No.
you sure? Is it like a romance or
Eh.
cartoon?
No, it's like
50 Shades, you were thinking?
no.
Okay.
no, she's not.
Okay.
No.
What's a good one? I read The Tao of Dating one time. That was
Okay.
entertaining.
All right. The Tao of Dating.
Yeah, that was a
Okay.
good one.
We always have our
I don't
dating
remember
stories.
who the author is.
I'll look it up. No
Yeah.
worries.
I'm sure it has something to do with relationships.
Okay. So
Yeah, it does.
Before I ask the final question, tell everyone how they can reach you online, like website and social media and all that.
We are on Instagram.
We are.
LadySmyth LA.
Got it.
And it's LadySmyth
Cool.
LA.
All right.
And
We're on Facebook too. I think it's
Yep.
the same handle.
Good.
You can find us on our website, ladysmithla.com.
Cool.
And then if you want to follow Shannon, you got to get approved because she's private at Shan Weidel. And then I'm at DJ Ivy.
DJ Ivy. Cool. So I always end off the show.
Oh, wait. And Foxy is when
Yes,
Stella met Foxy.
Foxy.
Shameless plug. She has her own Instagram.
Got it. I'll have to look that up too.
She has a lot of followers.
Hilarious. So the final question I always ask people, but before that, just thank you very much for being on the show. I'm big fans.
Thank
Like I love
Thank
your
you for
company,
having
of
us.
course. And Ivy and I go back from Camp Spinoff, and we DJ together. We got to DJ together soon.
We are.
So I'm your dope DJ, but I really like what y'all are doing down here, and I thank you. And I really I think a lot of people will take a lot of the wisdom you shared and use it.
I hope so.
Appreciate it.
I hope
yeah.
so too. Thank
Good,
you.
good. So I always let our guests leave with any last minute words of wisdom or advice. So I'll let you kind of take it home and we'll keep going. So have at it.
Be fearless.
Yeah, see, we're going to keep circling back.
Yeah.
Set boundaries. Don't let people take advantage of you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my word of advice, but always
And be good to yourself.
Preach.
treat yourself. I can leave with the 4 agreements if it makes you want to read the book. Be impeccable with your word. Assume nothing. What's the other one? Yeah, assume nothing. Now I'm on the spot. I just forgot it. And
You put yourself. in
always,
first
I know.
spot.
Always do your best. That's the 3rd one.
Okay.
Assume. No, I forgot what it was. I'm
Well,
sorry.
it's okay.
It's all good. Those are
Be kind
those
to
are
yourself.
3. Be kind to
Be kind to
yourself is the
yourself.
4th.
Preach.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Amani Experience podcast. You can check out the show notes on amaniexperience.com/podcast. Please remember to leave us a review on the platform you are listening on and share this podcast with anyone who you feel would benefit from listening. See you soon on our next episode.